Hello and welcome to this video. This video we will be studying the rules of definite article and some characteristics of the guttural. Uh, Let me first begin with the definite article. In English, we have two kind of articles. One is definite and indefinite. The indefinite articles are a and an. The definite article is the. You see, in Hebrew, we only have a definite article. There is no concept of an indefinite article. The absence of the definite article indicates that the noun is indefinite. In other words, when you see a word like yom, you see no definite article before it, and therefore you shall conclude that the word yom is indefinite. That means it will be translated as a day. Or ben. Ben does not come with a definite article attached to it in the beginning, and therefore you shall conclude that it is indefinite, or that would mean it is a son. Now, the definite article in Hebrew is he with a patak and a dagesh forte in the first consonant. This is the standard way of writing the definite article. A he plus a patak plus a dagesh forte in the first consonant of the noun. Okay, remember, definite articles attached to a noun. So this yad is without the definite article, it is a hand. And if you want to say the hand, you should put the definite article, which is a patak, and a dagesh forte in the first consonant of the noun. Okay, that's the standard one. So it becomes hayyad, which is now translated as the hand. Or a word like coal. Coal is a voice because it does not have a definite article before it. If you want to make it definite, then what you do is, it tells me simply that put a ha with a patak and a dagesh forte in the first root of the noun, and it becomes hakol, which is now the voice. Now, what happens if your first if the first consonant of the noun is a guttural? Remember, gutturals reject dagesh forte. So now you have an issue, because how are you going to put your definite article then? So if your the first consonant of the noun is an aleph, or if it is a ain, or if it's a resh, then compensatory lengthening takes place. Compensatory lengthening takes place. Now, what is the compensatory lengthening? Let me just show you what compensatory lengthening is. Now, and I'll show you that with the example here. This is rosh. This is a word you've studied. Now, this has no definite article in it. Therefore, you are going to translate it as a head. Okay, literally that. Now, you want to put a definite article. Now, you put the ha, you put the patak, and you realize that the resh will not take a dagesh forte because it is a guttural. It cannot be doubled. In this case, now, because it is a resh, and it will also happen with the aleph, it will also happen with the ain, and it is also going to happen with the resh. CL, compensatory lengthening. The vowel before it, that means in this case, the patak will now lengthen to a kametz. It will lengthen to a kametz. The lengthening of the short vowel to the long vowel is called compensatory lengthening. Now, in this case, the compensatory lengthening was happening from a patak. But Hebrew has three ways of compensatory lengthening in general that you need to remember. Compensatory lengthening can happen from a patak to a kametz. It can happen with a kirek to a sere, and it can happen from a kibbutz to a kolem. These are the three possibility of a lengthening which can happen in compensatory lengthening. Okay, from a patak it can lengthen to a kametz, from a kirek it can lengthen to a sere, from a kibbutz it can be lengthened to a kolem. In this particular example that I have shown you, when you put the her with the patak, the lengthening is happening with respect to the patak lengthening to a kametz. Alright, so this is nothing but a compensatory lengthening that is taking place here. Now, compensatory lengthening is going to only take place with an aleph, ayin, and resh, because the guttural is in the first consonant of the noun, and it rejects the dagesh forte. It cannot be doubled. Therefore, what? But what happens if the first consonant of the noun, okay, if the first consonant now is a he or a ket, what happens then? Then there is no compensatory lengthening. There's what we call a virtual doubling. In other words, what happens is he and ket are said to be doubled by implication. That is, it is virtually doubled. So when I am going to put, this is the word I'm dealing with here is kerev, which means sword. If I am going to put if I want to say the sword, then I put the usual her with a patak, and I cannot put the dagesh forte in this consonant simply because it is a guttural, the ket. It rejects it. But since it is a he, among the he and the kets, we do not have compensatory lengthening, we have a virtual doubling. So in other words, what happens is, this is not elongated, no lengthening. It remains lengthening. L-E-N-G-H-T. Lengthening. Sorry about my spellings. No lengthening. It remains as patak. Alright? So it's remaining as patak, but you are doubling this by implication. You are implying that it is being doubled. So in other words, when I am breaking this word, you would have to assume that there's a break happening. So how do I break this? Patak. Now this is a silent sheva. I have broken the ket into, now ket with the segol below it, because you see the segol will not be doubled, it's only the consonant that's doubled. Then you have the resh with the segol, and you have the bet. Okay, in this case you have 1, 2, 3 full vowels, and you can break it up like that, 3 syllables. Okay, so always remember the first syllable will always be, in this case, it will be a closed syllable because it's ending. This is a silent sheva, and therefore it's ending with a consonant, so it's a closed sheva. So please remember once again that when the first consonant of the noun is a he or a ket, the article is written as a he. It is written as a he and a patak, simple patak. Okay, there is no dagesh forte written. There is no compensatory lengthening. The he and the ket, in this case, it only applies to these two. They are just doubled by implication. They are virtually doubled. All right. What about begat kefat letter when I'm adding the regular definite article? Remember, the definite article is always this: he with a patak and a dagesh forte in the first consonant. So I have this word berit here. Berit, this is a dagesh lene because it begins the syllable. You remember, forte can never begin the syllable. Now I am going to attach the definite article. The moment I attach the definite article, that is her with a patak, and then I add the dagesh lene, Sorry, I added Dagesh forte because that's what I have to do. This is a Dagesh forte. Then what happens? The Lene, Dagesh Lene becomes a forte here. Okay, and that's perfectly fine by the rules, because you see now that is a forte, and you see the forte is preceded by a vowel, and that's pretty much what the rule was. Okay, that a forte can follow a vowel. All right, so in a Begat Kefa letter, this is just a simple thing. The Lene becomes the forte the moment you attach a definite article, her, with a patak, with the Dagesh forte. Let me do another one. You have the word derek here. Derek means a road because it has no definite article before it. So this has a Dagesh Lene in front. Dagesh Lene in front because it begins the word. If I'm going to add the definite article, I put her and the patak and the Dagesh forte here. So now the Lene becomes a forte. Alright, which is fine now because it is now followed by a vowel here, which is perfect. So Had Derek. Had Derek is now translated as the road. This one is something you have to keep a track of. Before ket with the commits, it could be unaccented or an accented ket with the commits, or before unaccented he with the commits, or before unaccented ein with the commits. It is always written only as the definite article is only written as a he with the segol. We call it the irregular segol of the definite article. Okay, it is written as he with the segol. Forget the Dagesh forte because all these three are gutturals. They will reject the Dagesh forte. So it is simply written as he with the segol. Let's see a few examples. So what's the rule? I've written it on the right hand side. Before accented or unaccented ket with the commits, or before unaccented he with the commits, or between unaccented ein with the commits, it is always written as he. It is always written as he with the segol. Now, these are all two-syllable words. I'm breaking them up into their syllables. Now, this is a unaccented syllable. So this is an unaccented ket with the commits. So that is this rule here. Unaccented. If I'm going to attach the definite article, it will be written with a he with a segol. Do not be challenged because any he before a noun typically should tell you that it is a definite article. So if you know kakam, if you know the meaning of kakam, then kakam means wise man. If you know wise man is kakam, then he kakam will be the wise man. Again, the next one, afar. If you know the meaning of afar is dust, or rather dust, of course you don't call it dust. Again, now you have a case of this is an unaccented ein with this is a third example here. The rule here, where if it is unaccented ein with the commits, this is very important. It should be ein with the commits here. In all the three examples, it's something with the commits. Okay, and here it is unaccented. Therefore, if I'm going to attach anything to it, then it is going to be the definite article is going to be he with a segol. All right. So if you know afar is dust, then this is the dust. Or he with a commits. He, this is again unaccented. He with a commits. This is the second one here. It's in a unaccented position. Then you're going to write in this case you will write it as a he with a segol. He harim. He harim. He harim. If you know harim is mountains, he harim is the mountains. Again, you should not be very challenged. This can only happen in these three circumstances. He with the segol will only come as a definite article before an accented or unaccented ket with a commits, or before an unaccented he with the commits, or with an unaccented ein with the commits. Only in these three circumstances. Now, would that challenge you? The answer is no. If you know your noun, if you see the hay with a segol, you know it's pretty much a definite article. Now, very often it is observed that a word that begins on the right hand side, you can see, if a word begins with a yod with a vocal shiva or with a mem with a vocal shiva, very often we see that the dagesh forte gets dropped out. Why is the dagesh forte omitted? Let me give you a good example. If I'm going to add the definite article to it, I should add her with a patak, which is usual, and a dagesh forte. Here also her with a patak and a dagesh forte. Very often it is observed that this dagesh forte is omitted. This dagesh forte is omitted. And the reason why it's omitted is that Skinnem-Levy rule. The Skinnem-Levy rule. Okay, that Skinnem-Levy rule tells you that very often a dagesh, if the letters of that Skinnem-Levy, if it has a vocal shiva, very often the dagesh forte gets dropped out. The Skinnem-Levy rule. That's the reason why sometimes you will not see, and you may be racking your head and wondering, hang on, I should see a dagesh forte there. Why is it not there? And the answer to that is the vocal shiva below it. This is a vocal shiva that has now kind of ensured that this is a vocal shiva, originally a vocal shiva, but because before I applied the sorry. All right, here's the one. These are all vocal shivas because it begins the word. The moment I add a her, I should have seen a dagesh forte there, but it gets dropped out because of the Skinnem-Levy rule. Okay, just be mindful of that. Just a quick observation. It usually happens when it begins with when the word begins with a yod with a vocal shiva or with a mem with a vocal shiva. Again, with a mem with a vocal shiva, sometimes it is observed, this phenomenon is observed, sometimes the phenomenon is not observed. For example, a word like melakim. Melakim is kings. Melakim. You see, this is a mem with a. The word is beginning mem with a vocal shiva, like this out here. Okay, mem with a vocal shiva. If I want to make it a definite, if I want to say the kings, I have to just put a her with a patak. And sometimes I said the dagesh forte will drop out, but in this case I observed that the dagesh forte is there, which is not a problem, which is good for me itself. I can easily say it is the kings by looking at this. My definite, remember by default the definite article is hey with the patak and a dagesh forte. So that is clearly seen here. The Skinnem-Levy rule will apply sometimes to the yod with the vocal shiva and the mem with the vocal shiva. So sometimes you will see the dagesh forte being omitted. If you do see it omitted, please remember it is because of the Skinnem-Levy rule. Alright? But it will still not challenge you because you'll see the her before and you can easily say it is a definite article. Finally, go to page Kelly, page 34 and read 5.1111. Very few nouns they undergo internal changes when the definite article is prefixed to them. So what it means is that you have a word like eretz. That's the monarch. This is how the word is. Okay, eretz. This is the letter. This one. So this is eretz. So this is earth. The moment you attach the definite article, in this case it's a compensatory lengthening which is taking place, you see all these vowels change. It becomes, instead of from sere it becomes kametz, and this sere remains segol remains the same. From a segol it becomes a kametz. The segol under the resh remains the same, and the final sade it is there. But the changes of bubbling do take place. All right. So just be mindful that there are internal changes like that, the changes of vowels which do take place very often. Look, another word. Another word is har. Har comes with a patak, he with a patak, and a resh. Now, the moment you attach a definite article, now in this case, it is what is happening is there are internal changes that are taking place, and there are wobbling changes which are taking place here itself. Okay. Now, you will notice again that even this vowel has changed. I should have expected something else below it, but if you know your general Hebrew rule that har is a mountain, then the he before that should tell you that it is a definite article. Remember, the moment you see he before a noun, you can safely assume it is a definite article. All right. So just read 5.11. Don't get too worked up about 5.11 because of all the internal changes. Trust me, you will easily be able to recognize it, okay, in a word. All right. So don't worry too much about that. Just a word on gutturals. Gutturals tend to take compound shavas rather than taking simple shavas. Usually, gutturals prefer the R sound, the A class vowel, always. Okay. Remember, they prefer the A class, and even if it takes a compound shavas, it will take preferably most of the time it will take a katib patak. Okay, because that's what doesn't mean they don't take the other compound shavas. There are many times that initial aleph means when aleph opens the word like Elohim, they take a katib segol. And very, very few times very rarely we see the guttural appearing with the katib kametz katuf, okay, with the O sound. Gutturals again prefers, let me remind you, the gutturals very often prefer compound shava over a silent shava also, okay. So a word like avod, you should have seen a silent shava here, but it removes the silent shava even in that case and comes to a compound shava, and usually that will be the same class as this. It will be usually the same class of vowel as that. Na'avod, na'avod, or in this case, next one, na ha. I should have seen a silent shava to close the syllable out here like that. I should have seen it, but I'm not seeing it because there is a very strong tendency, because this is a guttural. He has a very strong tendency of taking a compound shava rather than a simple shava. So he prefers, it is so strong that he prefers taking, he does not want a silent shava, and he will make it into a katib patak, which is, of course, he will ensure that it is the same class of vowels. Okay, usually they will be the same. Let's see another one. Now, here's the word. Again, if you break this into syllables, this is actually if you know the word, this is a mo. If you break it, this is and closed, unaccented, and in the closed unaccented, what comes? The kametz katuf comes, correct? Closed unaccented, kametz katuf comes. Now, what happens is, this is mo mad, but the problem is that the guttural does not prefer the ain with the silent shava, does not prefer the silent shava too much, so he becomes vocal again of the same class as this. This is a kametz katuf, so he will become the compound one. So katib kametz katuf, so it's the same class. You put a methek here. In this case, if you're wondering why is the methek here, this is not an ambiguous position. The methek appears when the methek is a rule in an ambiguous position to distinguish between a kamitz and a kamitz katuf. This is not an ambiguous position at all. The method here applies to the same rule as you see why it is applied, and you have to go to page 25. If you please read the rules on method, page 25, point number 2. Point number 2. I can read it out loud. That is 4.11. That is, it is used with short vowels. It is used with short vowel. Method is used with short vowels. This is a short vowel. Yes, this is kamitz katuf. This is a short vowel that stands immediately before compound shevas. That stands immediately. Is it standing immediately before compound sheva? Yes, this is a compound sheva. So, the method in this case is, it is used with short vowels that stand immediately before compound shevas. So the method is used here because it is standing with a short vowel kamitz katuf that is standing immediately before a compound sheva, which in this case is that. You see, he will ensure that he does not get the ayn will ensure that he does not want a silent sheva. He wants some sound as a sound, and that will take the same sound as a class as the short vowel before it. Okay. Please read this in your page Kelly. It's written very clearly, and this is pretty much what you need to know about gutturals and the articles. Pretty straightforward chapter. There's nothing twisting about it, as long as you remember. Let's look at the review. Gutturals, if you remember, gutturals reject a dagesh forte, and if the guttural is an aleph, if it is an ayn, if it is a resh, then we have compensatory lengthening taking place. If it is a he, or if it is a ket, then you have virtual doubling take place. You know that gutturals love the A class vowel. Very often it will take the kateb vowels. Very often it will take the kateb patak vowels. That doesn't mean it does not take the other kateb vowels such as kateb segol and kateb kamitz katuf. It does, but very often it will take the kateb patak vowels. Okay, they prefer it very much. Okay, again, one more thing is that gutturals do not prefer a simple vocal sheva. That means they will not prefer you will not prefer it like that. They will prefer some side of a compound sheva. This is not the rule for resh. Resh can take a simple vocal sheva. So you can find a word like re, like this, simple vocal sheva. But that's very difficult with the other gutturals. In the end, please read page Kelly chapter 5 very well. Okay. Now there's one last thing called furtive pata. Okay, furtive pata. I am going to now use an example. Okay, when one of the gutturals occurs at the end of the word. So this is occurring at the end of the word. Guttural occurring at the end of the word. Okay, and is preceded by a long vowel. Is this a long vowel? Yes, it is a long vowel. It is preceded by a long vowel, not of the A class, because you see gutturals like the A class sound, but this is not of the A class. This one. So what it does is, when it is not preceded by a long vowel of not of the A class, then Hebrew tends to put a short A sound which is inserted between the vowel and the guttural. So the insertion is between the guttural and the vowel. It's here. Okay, it's here. Please make a note. It's here. It's not below the ket. It's between the shurek and the ket. Okay, that's called a furtive patak. It's a patak being put there. It's a furtive patak. Furtive patak is used only for a hurried pronunciation. Okay, it's to pronounce it like veruak. So you are able to pronounce the guttural which is in the final position. Remember, you are always supposed to lay stress on the final syllable, and therefore the ket has to be pronounced, and therefore it prefers the ak sound, ruak. Uh, therefore, it's used for that, the furtive prata. Now, the furtive prata is not a full vowel, and it does not increase the number of syllables in the word. Please remember that. It is not a full vowel, so please do not consider it for your syllabification. It does not increase the number of syllables. It is only existing there. It is only existing there because of pronunciation. So, again, this, if you look at this particular example, and I'm going to erase the everything and write it again. Way ru ak. You have just got one full vowel, and therefore you have only one syllable. It's a monosyllable. Okay. Please do not include the furtive pata, because the furtive pata is just there for a hurried pronunciation. That's it. It's not part of the syllabification. Okay. Way ru ak. So when does a furtive pata occur? When the guttural is in the last position, when it is preceded by a vowel, a long vowel, not of the A class, then Hebrew puts a furtive patak towards the word. Let me show you another word. The word is you have the guttural in the last position, and this is preceded by a kolem, which is a long vowel. It is not of the A class, and therefore what does Hebrew do? It puts a furtive pata between the vowel and the consonant. So it is pronounced as noak, 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 noak. All right. So again, remember, it does not increase the number of syllables. This is a monosyllable simply because it has only one full vowel of a kolem. Therefore, it's only a one syllable word. Okay, it's a monosyllable. The furtive pata does not increase it. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great evening. Bye bye. Thank you.